Turok Evolution, a game that may have started my love for dinosaurs, but is a controversial game that not everyone remembers as fondly as I do. If you don't know what Turok is, it's a video game series based off of a comic book about a Native American dude that takes on the title Turok and gets transported to a mystical land full of dinosaurs, lizardmen, and other ugly-ass creatures. It's a first-person shooter that was popular during the N64 era, with a trilogy of games consisting of Turok Dinosaur Hunter, Turok 2 Seeds of Evil, and Turok 3 Shadows of Oblivion, as well as a spin-off game, Turok Rage Wars. But I'm not here to talk about those games, mostly because I've never played those games. I've only seen gameplay for research for this video. Turok Evolution is the only Turok game I've ever actually played, and I enjoyed it as well as hated it as a kid. But I think it's an interesting game to go back and look at. Turok Evolution was made for the PlayStation 2, Xbox, and GameCube in 2002, and probably was one of the first games I had for my Xbox. I remember the T-Rex on the front looking metal as fuck, and always gave off the right vibe for the horrific and brutal dinosaur world you're about to dive into. This game was brutal, and had some cool ass ideas, especially being a prequel to the first Turok game starring Tal Set as the first Turok, and a favorite Turok amongst fans. Although this game is badass and interesting, the biggest gripe I got is it can be pretty challenging and has a lot of bullshit that can really piss you off, especially how checkpoints can become few and far between. Honestly though, as a kid, I got as far as chapter 5 playing normally, from a game that has about 15 chapters. The only time I ever saw anything beyond chapter 5 was when my uncle figured out the cheat codes and showed me and my brother the final boss fight, and then years later playing through some of the later levels with cheats on. Now, I have some pretty fond memories of this game, and I want to play through it fully, and I'm going to get as far as I can legitimately without cheats. But I'm just letting you know, when I get to see these later bullshit sections where I die over and over again and gotta restart all the way back to the beginning, I'm not against at least maybe using the infinite ammo cheat to get past something that's that bullshit, and I'll tell you when I'm doing it. But that being said, I want to get right into and analyze the levels in this game. Starting with Chapter 1. Now, Chapter 1 is pretty good and has most of the memorable shit I remember, and begins with you arriving on a dock and going through a gate that has extreme Jurassic Park vibes. So much so that I legitimately thought that's where this game took place as a kid, and I don't blame myself. The story in this game is not the easiest to follow. Hell, I didn't even realize there was an opening cinematic because you gotta wait through a ton of beginning credits, and I would just skip to get to the game. But even after watching the opening, I still didn't understand what the hell is going on, and had to read some explanations to actually semi-understand the plot of this game. All you get from the opening cinematic though is pretty much just seeing a Native American dude and a Confederate dude from like the 1800s getting sucked into a portal and getting flung into dinosaur land. But anyway, you start off in the jungle with nothing on you but your meat hatchet and a bow and arrow, and a path forward you must follow that leads to a pretty cool open area. A good bit of wildlife and dinosaurs are all in this section, like a Stegosaurus, a Triceratops with its beautiful child. Oh. Rip. And some other ugly ass dinosaurs, as well as your first introduction to the lizard people known as Slegs, which are the main enemies you'll be fighting throughout this entire game. Do I know who they are or what they want? No. But I know they don't like humans, so I think that's enough to blow their heads apart over. After you get through that area, you get to Chapter 1, Part 2. All chapters have parts to them in this game, usually between 3 and 6, but there's a couple outliers that have a lot more or a lot less. But the parts act as levels, and the only checkpoints you get are at the beginning of these parts, so you really don't want to die. But anyways, this section introduces you to the raptors, which frightened me as a boy, but I now laugh at as a man. Especially when you find the pistol in the swamp area and you can just blast them twice and they die. I haven't talked too much about the weapons yet, but they're all pretty cool and some very unique. As you progress through the story, you'll find guns, grenades, and augments for those weapons laying around, which generally you will keep for the next level, up until the game decides to randomly take weapons away from you, but I'll get more into that later on. Well, after you get through the swamp and kill some more Slegs, you get introduced to a river section with a bunch of gators that are surprisingly tanky, and more of a threat surprisingly than the raptors are. You need to unlock a room surrounded by gators by first getting the key, which is on top of a pillar. But turns out it's really a trap for you to get gangbanged by a bunch of monkeys. Oh, fuck! After unlocking the gate, you get to the last section of the first chapter, which involves you scaling a mountain to get to a hot babe that's on top of it with a terrible mic. Damn.
Well, I see Jun got you here in one piece.
She lets you borrow her spare pterodactyl and you get led into the second chapter and the first flying mission of the game. Chapter 2. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the flying levels in this game, but this one isn't too bad. First, I want to explain the flying mechanics. Pretty much bottom trigger to shoot a machine gun, and top trigger to shoot what missiles you might have. Sounds pretty simple and easy. The problem is the aiming is pure donkey balls with the machine gun. If you're trying to shoot shit flying around, you're gonna have a terrible time. And the flying itself is janky as fuck, where if you go a little too high, it yanks you back down abruptly. And just slightly touching anything with your pterodactyl will end up with it exploding into meat and goo. What? Around the air, you can find balloons that carry stuff like dead animals for health or crates for missiles, which are thankfully kind of heat-seeking, so they are your best bet to hit things if you're flying around. This level starts you off in an area where you pretty much get the hang of the controls with some of the wildlife and dinosaurs roaming, which is my favorite part of the game. Unfortunately, only the earlier levels have a good bit of dinosaurs and shit, and the later half of the game noticeably is lacking in that department. But I'll, of course get more into that later. Like I said, this is probably the best flying chapter in the whole game, with it being packed full of diverse and interesting sections, taking you through a forested area, dodging tree limbs, and then avoiding falling rocks as you fly up a mountain, then blasting your way through a dam to flying down a waterfall avoiding rocks. There are a ton of cool set pieces in this one chapter, which feels like honestly that they use most of their cool ideas here, because the later flying levels just get less interesting and more frustrating. After going through an open section where you blow up enemy camps and then fly through another forest area with mines strapped to balloons, you get to the ending part of the level where you gotta fight a giant airship. It's an alright basic flying fight where you pretty much lock onto the turrets attached to the Zeppelin and blow it up. The only issue is kind of an ongoing issue with the rest of the game. You see, after you destroy the turrets, the ship doesn't just go down. The ship still has health, but it doesn't show you. It doesn't even light your crosshairs red when you go over it. I thought I was missing a turret or my game glitched. I even kept shooting this ship for a while with no sign it was taking any damage at all. After a while, right before I was going to give up and restart, it finally exploded. There are a lot of instances like this where you gotta destroy something but you don't know you can. Things don't indicate you gotta destroy them, and even if you do attack these things, it's a gamble wasting your ammo on something that may or may not even explode. It's frustrating and a big contender for why I may not have gotten that far as a kid. Let's continue on to Chapter 3, which is not a flying level, and my favorite gameplay sections. You start off in an area where a bunch of humans have been killed and the survivors taken to a camp. The objective of Chapter 3 is to scale a mountain to get to the base of it where the POW camp is located. The first section is pretty much you running up a mountain, sniping slugs with your scoped bow and your new scoped pistol while avoiding falling boulders. But this is all just set up for my favorite part of the game and the moment that left the most impression on my little peanut brain. Part 2 of Chapter 3 just straight up puts you right in front of a T-Rex that's in the middle of enjoying a succulent dinosaur burger. Now, I think the point is to sneak around him, but try as I may, no matter how I get around him, he always decides to chase me, which even today makes my butt pucker. Oh fuck! Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, go, 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 go! Motherfucker, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit! Oh fuck! Oh, run, run, run! What is this, dude? Open this fucking wall! Oh, no, 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 no. Bro, get off my dick! The Rex is relatively easy to kill though, but it's just the thought and visual of this fucker chasing you that makes it heart-pounding and unforgettable. Fuck you, motherfucker. Fuck you too. Unfortunately, that's the only time you experience something like this in the game, where it's a big fucking dinosaur that's chasing you. You fight monsters and shit, but you don't really fight a T-Rex until we'll get back into that. After that though, the rest of the part is mediocre, with you just climbing the mountain like you have been while fighting an onslaught of slugs, and finally finding your shotgun, which honestly doesn't feel that great to shoot, and I always feel like my bullets go around my target rather than concentrated on them, even when I'm relatively close. After climbing through the mountain, you reach a cave, which is another memorable moment to me. This is a close quarters section, which is made so you can test out that new shotgun you just got. You gotta traverse the maze-like cave while blasting the faces off of saber-toothed cats. Bring it on, bitch! It's a short area, but definitely one of my favorites, and I wish it lasted a little bit longer. When you make it out of the cave, you gotta continue moving through the mountain, but this time there's a cool section where you operate a turret and fight a couple waves of slugs, and then end off the level by fighting a mini-boss Ankylosaurus with a cannon strapped to its back. Thankfully, you find a rocket launcher laying around minutes before you have to fight this thing. I need the rocket launcher. The rocket launcher. Come on. Oh, dude. You exit by reaching the gate to the Slag POW camp, which is the setting for the next chapter. Chapter 4. This is a chapter centered around stealth as you maneuver around the camp at night while not being spotted by Slags patrolling the area and being aware of the watchtowers and taking them out. Or at least that's how you're supposed to go about it. This first section also where you find another one of my favorite guns, the fleshlight gun, which is very satisfying to tear slag legs off with. The violence and gore in this game is very satisfying. When you shoot a slag, you can feel the damage it does, and depending on where you finish them off, they have a certain reaction. Shoot them in the head, their whole head pops off with a geyser of blood, and they drop to the ground. Shoot them in the arm or leg, and that said body part gets blown off, and they fall to the ground in agonizing pain. The AI on the slags in this game is at times a little fucky, but for the most part they aren't bad. Some slags decide to run to the nearest cover when hit, and some decide to come charging when they've been hit. I guess they figure they have nothing left to lose. And the most interesting thing about the skinny slags, and rarely the beefy meathead ones, is that when hit enough times, sometimes they decide to just say fuck this shit and drop their gun and run. And when there's no place to run, they just surrender. Unfortunately for them though, there is no room for mercy in this game, and I need them to drop their loot. But anyways, back to this chapter, most of it is more or less the same thing. But one of the most interesting part is finding one of these. By far, one of the coolest weapons you get in the fucking game. The Dark Matter Cube. Oh, I remember this fucker. This is the best fucking weapon in the game. Alright, I know. And you only get one this level that they probably want you to use on the other mini boss on the bridge you gotta cross. But I just end up wasting it. Oh no! Oh! Well, there goes my Dark Matter Cube. One shitty thing about this chapter though is halfway for literally no reason they just decide to take your pistol away. Where's my pistol? Aw, dude, there's an ongoing thing in this game where the devs decide to take weapons away out of nowhere, and it pisses me off. Other noteworthy points of this chapter include an area where the slugs keep a bunch of raptors and you can release them to fight each other, and a part where you find the slug barracks, as well as running into one of the big monster slugs for the first time. Other damn fuckers. Oh, that's a big boy! After rescuing a few humans who definitely don't just die after walking out the front door, you make it to another big door in the middle of the outpost and conclude chapter 4. Alright, now chapter 5. The final chapter I could get to as a kid. Definite downgrade from the earlier chapters. This chapter is way too long, with a whopping 10 parts. And most of the areas are about the same. It's pretty much a gauntlet where you're trying to get to an old man prisoner locked deep in the prison. Do I know who he is or why we gotta save him specifically? Fuck no. The first part of the chapter is by far the most unique, where you're pretty much just run around in a single area fighting waves of slugs, and then fight a mini boss halfway through, then destroy mob spawners. Nothing crazy, but not bad. You then gotta make your way through a couple parts of corridors till you reach the next interesting thing, the introduction of a new type of enemy. They're like wizard ninjas or some shit. I don't know, but they can teleport around and shoot magic at you. This is the perfect opportunity, I think, to showcase the minigun attachment for their flechette gun. Definitely one of the most fun and OP weapons in the game. It can just about shred through anything you've encountered so far in seconds. After you have dealt with the wizard ninjas a few times, then you gotta go through some Indiana Jones type shit with corridors full of traps and obstacles until you reach an elevator that takes you down. Now you get to a grueling section where you gotta run around a factory and destroy 6 control terminals while dealing with a ton of slugs, as well as for some reason not having a whole lot of ammo around, which is the first time in the game where I was really struggling with that shit. You can, however, find a flamethrower in this section, and although it's kind of hard to use because you gotta be kind of close to use it, it does help tear up some ass. You can also find the gravity disruptor around the end. It looks dope as fuck, but it's kind of hard to use. It's another up close type weapon that you have to charge. You pretty much charge it up, run up to a crowd of slugs and release it, sending an energy pulse damaging all enemies around you. The trick is getting close enough to a group without dying. After blowing up all the terminals, you get to the part that's pretty bullshit. Your mission is to get through the now exploding facility, which you think would mean you gotta like run through it as fast as you can to get away from the explosions, but you'd actually be wrong. I did that and continually ran into explosions, dying instantly. The trick is you actually gotta take your time walking through it so you don't run into the scripted explosions accidentally. You keep making your way through till you find a computer room where you gotta take the enemy plans and you gotta go through some more Indiana Jones type bullshit. You then make it to the big part of the chapter, the real prison dungeon section. This is about as far as I got as a kid. The last thing I remember getting to was the part where you're crawling under this prison cell, avoiding all the puke and nastiness that's above it, just falling through the grates. I never remembered why I didn't get past this point, but now I do. In the process of breaking out this stinky old man, you have to get through this part. A section that sends wave after wave of slugs, and a pretty much open area with the only cover being boxes that mostly break pretty easily. This shit goes on for a long ass time with a ton of heavy duty slugs, as well as not just one, but 2 big ass boss monsters that shoot rockets at you. And then another little mini boss guy that tanks like a motherfucker. I see why little me called it quits at this spot, but this time around I managed to carry on and get past it without cheating. Even though that this shit was crazy, that's still not the end of this chapter. Now we gotta get this stinky cheese geezer out of here. Luckily it only takes about a part and a half, but still, at this part you just want to get out. When you finally do get to the end, you are greeted with an in-game cutscene, and pretty much all you gotta know is Cowboy Man is working with the lizards and he has a robot arm now. That's pretty much the whole point.
Well now, if this ain't a sight for sore eyes.
Buckner.
And with that, chapter 5 and a third of the game is now complete.
Come on!
Chapter 6. Now, this chapter is actually a welcome surprise. It's probably one of my favorite chapters in the game. It takes you mostly away from the slugs and puts you in a location called the Dark Forest. This whole chapter is more focused on dinosaurs and is probably the last chapter to be like this. The first section is mainly an open area where you run around and try to find the 3 keys to open this door. You gotta be wary though, because not only are there little chimps that run around and actually do absolutely nothing, but there are raptors that hide around every corner waiting to jump out, as well as booby traps that litter the forest floor. This part is alright, but it can be frustrating looking for these keys hidden, especially with the foliage everywhere. And 2 of the keys are hidden pretty well and took me like 30 minutes of walking back and forth to figure it out. One of them you literally have to walk off the edge of the map, so it was a little bullshit. After that you reach the next section with the same premise, find the 3 keys. These ones aren't hard to find though, and you just have to deal with some raptors and a few ninja wizards for the first 2. But there's one key that is in a baboon den. These monkeys are fucking terrifying and there's a ton of them. Oh fuck! Oh my god, these monkeys are strong! Holy shit! They come swarming you the second you come out of this hole, and they can tank pretty good. The adults can take like 2 shotgun blasts to the face. At one point, I find a way to cheese it by getting them locked in a location, throwing a grenade on them, just to find out there's more monkeys waiting around the corner. Oh, I didn't get all of them. Shit. After collecting keys again, you go into an area that yet again you have to collect 3 keys. But this time there's no dinosaurs. But as you start collecting the keys, you get why. Oh! How did that not hit any of them? these little statue fuckers start running around with hatchets trying to cut you. I was startled to say the least when they first showed up. They're pretty weak though, and I noticed if you just run around in circles around them and hit them with your hatchet, they go down pretty easy and they can't really hit you. These dudes are pretty weird, and I'm pretty sure this is the only section they're in. You never see these guys pop up again in this entire game. After collecting the keys for the third time, you enter what I thought would be another checkpoint, but it was an ambush by some slut slags, pulling the old dropping boulders on your head gag. Anyways, I dealt with those fucks and more wizard dudes in a tomb, and then you get to go to the next section. This area is pretty dope. I have a faint memory of my brother playing this level, which may be a cause for a mild fear I have of bodies of water with large creatures in it. In this section, you gotta swim from island to island while collecting a bunch of magic keys that unlock steps to get up a ledge. The problem is there are a shit ton of plesiosaurs that swim around, and you'll never know when they'll swim past you passively or go to take a big old chomp out of your titty. Oh! And you also have to keep your eyes open for snipers because they are everywhere and are the only other enemy on this stage besides the dinosaurs. Those guys got lips. This area is also where you get the plasma cannon, which was my favorite weapon to use as a kid through the multiplayer. You then get over the hill leading to the next part labeled the Dinosaur Graveyard, which is a pretty baller name, but it's relatively short. It only has one part with a bunch of bones that look like a graveyard, and the coolest dinosaurs in this level are the terror birds, which are fast and intimidating, but their AI for some reason is easily cheesable. Getting through this leads you to the final part of chapter 6, starting you in a mini coliseum-like area where you drop down and fight a bunch of raptors, and then you gotta do a time sequence where you gotta run from one door to another before they close. At first a little frustrating, but not that hard to pull off. You make your way through some baboons and reach the top of a hill where you are greeted by a bridge that you are apparently supposed to fight over, with some allies you've never seen before. This is a weird area because the bridge is set to explode, but you're supposed to walk across it anyway? And you can easily die during this. Hell, I thought I did die when they finally did blow the bridge, but luckily that's what's supposed to happen, I guess. I was on that bridge, dude! Oh. Was that the plan? I guess your friends plan to blow the fucking bridge up while you were on it because your pterodactyl readily flies in to pick you up, taking you into the next chapter. Chapter 7. Not much to say about this chapter, honestly. It's relatively short and it's a flying chapter with 3 sections. Here's how much enjoyment I had playing it. Oh god. Oh god. Oh, turn! No! Oh, dude, come on, dude, fuck! No, I need that. I don't even care if I die right here. God, I do care. I wish I didn't die. Fuck this level, and flying in general in this game. The slightest touch of anything kills you, and bullets melt your health fast as fuck. The chapter isn't unique either, taking place entirely in a canyon that looks the same throughout each part. The only kind of interesting part is at the end where you gotta do some Star Wars shit and destroy the shield generators. And that's all I gotta say about this chapter. Now chapter 8. With this, you go back to blasting motherfuckers in the face with first person, and this is where things really start to ramp up. You start off on the outer walls of a city that you're trying to breach through. The real shit part with this section are the giant turrets guarding the walls that take a ton of rockets to destroy, and they destroy your health bar. The first time isn't that bad because you have about enough rockets to take one out, but then shortly after you run into another wall but with 2 turrets and a rocket launcher slag firing rockets at you, and not that many rockets to throw back at them. Luckily, after dealing with those, you get to a checkpoint and enter the next section. This part is pretty straightforward, where you gotta battle across a bridge full of slags and gotta deal with 3 turrets, but you can pretty much cheese them because if you're far enough back, they won't even shoot at you. The hardest part about this level, and many others, is just trying to get off of a fucking ladder without dying. Oh, are you fucking kidding me? Ladders are such a bitch in this game. Like, it's fine going up them, but trying to get off of them or go down them, you're probably just gonna die from fall damage. Fall damage is unforgivable in this game. You then enter the 3rd section where you gotta fight off a few waves of enemies in the streets of the city with a few NPCs that die almost immediately to back you up. This city has a cool futuristic aesthetic that contrasts the primitive shit you've been accustomed to through the game, so it definitely gives this area a new and unique vibe. But unfortunately, you're going to be coming back through sections that look just like this a lot more in the game. After getting through that part, you enter another area that is almost the same. The only difference is this street has a lot more enemies and a couple of those dinosaur tanks. But the fighting in this section goes on for a while, and then you got to go through another area where you walk through a bunch of buildings fighting more slugs that fall down through the ceiling. But then this level has to throw in another big obstacle that is almost as bullshit as a ladder. What? Oh, come on! These shit random explosions that kill you instantly, making you have to restart everything. Why did that door even explode? You could have just opened it normally, like it did a few seconds ago? I don't know, man. That shit really pissed me off. And after dealing with that bullshit for this section over and over again, I decided I'm going to give myself a little help with infinite ammo, making it easier to blast through it and help protect my sanity as well as my controller from getting smashed. I ended up using infinite ammo for the next ruling section too. This part is way too long and involves you running between 2 3-story buildings, trying to sniff out 10 snipers that are hiding. Going through all this bullshit without dying and getting no checkpoints just sucks. But after concluding that section, I turned the infinite ammo cheat off and challenged the final part of this chapter normally. This final section is the best section of the entire chapter. You're pretty much locked in this big open coliseum-like area where not only are you fighting hordes of slugs that spawn in, but you also get NPC soldiers spawning in on the other side that help you fight. The best they can do is distract the slugs, but hey, that's good enough for me, I guess. But after a while, you get greeted by your first major boss of the game. Oh, shit. Triceratops. Oh, fuck. A giant Triceratops-like monster with a cannon on its back. This fight is not bad and is not hard once you realize there are a bunch of supply crates in the air, and you can shoot them down at any time to give yourself health. Slugs and soldiers eventually stop spawning in, so then it's just you and the Triceratops, and then at this point it's pretty easy. After you take the boss down, you must climb the tower in the middle of the battlefield and obtain the most OP weapon mod in the entire game. A fucking nuke. And you get to test it on a group of like 6 unfortunate slugs that walk in through the door. There we go. A little overkill? Fuck yeah it is, but I don't care. Unfortunately, I think this is the only time in the whole game you get to use one of these bad boys, but it just makes it more memorable that way. And definitely a memorable way to end the chapter. I know in multiplayer you can get the nuke too, and it's the funniest and trolliest thing you can do when you're playing with friends. The multiplayer was all around the blast and something me and my friends enjoyed playing a lot back in the day. But I'll talk more about that as well as the second half of the game in part 2. This is a long ass game, and in order to cover all the levels in a way I want to, it's better for me to split this into 2 parts. By the time this video goes up, part 2 shouldn't be too far behind. Well, anyways, thanks for watching this video, and hope you stay to see the conclusion to Turok Evolution in my next video. Peace out, and I hope you guys have a nasty night. A little baby one. Damn, the baby one can tank this shit. But damn! That was the baby one the strongest.